Welcome to the debate. Today we are stripping back the label on a small, sleek, red can that has pretty quietly conquered convenience store coolers everywhere from Southeast Asia to the Middle East. It costs less than a cup of coffee, tastes like melted candy, and promises instant vitality. We're talking about Sting Energy Drink. But the central question we're wrestling with today is this. When we pick up a can of Sting, are we buying a functional tool for alertness, a necessary fuel for the working world? Or are we just buying a concentrated delivery system for sugar that poses a silent, cumulative risk to our metabolic health?
See, you're framing this as a potential health crisis, but I look at it as an economic and, frankly, an engineering triumph. We aren't just looking at a beverage here. We are looking at a highly engineered, fast-moving consumer good, an FMCG masterpiece. We're going to do a deep dive into the nutritional profile of Sting, specifically the calorie count, the sugar density, and the cold, hard business logic that dictates those metrics.
And to keep us honest and grounded in reality, we're basing today's analysis on the detailed nutritional data and export specifications provided by Asia Grocery Company. We're looking specifically at their breakdown of the Sting product line, including the Gold Rush and Berry Blast variants.
And while you are undoubtedly going to focus on the biological impact on the individual drinker, I want to look at why this formulation exists in the first place. Why is Sting such a dominant stock-keeping unit, or SKU, for exporters? That sugar profile isn't an accident. It is a calculated formulation designed to meet very specific market demands for immediate accessible fuel.
Calculated is the right word, though maybe not in the benevolent sense you imply. Let's get straight to my position. I represent the consumer and the nutritional reality. And my argument is that Sting Energy Drink is, it's chemically engineered to override our evolutionary satiety signals. It delivers a massive caloric load, what nutritionists call empty energy, that the body just can't regulate. We're looking at a standard 250 milliliter can containing between 188 and 200 calories. I mean, to put that in perspective, that's over 10% of an average adult's daily caloric requirement, consumed in about 45 seconds.
The density is high, I'll admit that. But calling it a liability misses the use case entirely.
It is a metabolic liability. These are empty calories. The energy is derived almost exclusively from processed sugar. There is zero protein, there is zero fat, there is no fiber to blunt the insulin response. When you drink this, you are just dumping raw, unregulated fuel into the engine. For the average sedentary consumer, someone sitting at a desk, this isn't fuel, it's poison.
Okay, you're looking at this through the lens of a gym goer, or maybe a biohacker who counts macros. I represent the business, the wholesale and the export perspective, and I argue that for the target demographic of this product, those calories are a feature, not a bug. Sting is a high-performing SKU precisely because it delivers on its promise of rapid energy. You call it empty, but for a construction worker, a long-haul driver, or a student pulling an all-nighter, that caloric density is functional fuel. They aren't looking for fiber or slow-release complex carbs. They are looking for immediate glucose availability to keep moving.
But you're conflating energy with stimulation.
I'm conflating energy with sales volume. From a wholesale standpoint, the consistency of the product is what drives it. We're looking at a formulation, moderate caffeine, paired with very high carbohydrates. That creates predictable buying behavior. The consumer feels the effect immediately. That drives volume. And crucially, the product is transparent. The data from Asia Grocery Company is clear on the label. It does exactly what it says on the tin.
Doing what it says doesn't absolve the product of its physiological impact. And that brings us to our first core topic, the sugar versus energy equation. I want to break down the sugar content using the source's visualization because the numbers are frankly staggering. A single 250 milliliter can contains between 46 and 49 grams of sugar.
Which is a significant amount, certainly.
Significant is an understatement. It's astronomical. Let's visualize this for a second. 49 grams of sugar is approximately 11.5 teaspoons, in one small can. If you sat down at a cafe and watched someone spoon 11.5 teaspoons of sugar into a small cup of coffee, you would be horrified. You would think they were unwell. Yet, because it's carbonated and put in a red can, we accept it as a standard beverage.
But you can't compare it to table sugar in coffee. The context of consumption is different.
The body doesn't know the context. The physiology is the same. The American Heart Association recommends a strict limit on added sugars, 36 grams per day for men and 25 for women. One single can of Sting exceeds the daily limit for men and is nearly double the daily limit for women. So when a consumer drinks this for energy, they aren't getting true vitality. They're getting a rapid blood glucose spike that triggers a massive insulin release. It's a physiological trick.
It's a trick that works. And frankly, your focus on the teaspoon visual ignores the engineering marvel of the product. The source material highlights the nuance between the variants. Gold Rush has about 46 grams of sugar, while Berry Blast is higher at 49 grams.
Why is there a difference?
It's flavor chemistry. This is the bliss point concept in action. The manufacturers have balanced these flavors to mask that sweetness. If it tasted like 11 teaspoons of sugar water, no one would drink it. It would be cloying. But by balancing the acidity and the flavor profiles, using the tartness of the berry or the bite of the ginseng, they make high energy intake palatable. From a sales perspective, this palatability ensures repeat consumption. The market demands a beverage that tastes good and wakes you up. If you reduce the sugar, you lose the kick and the mouthfeel that the core demographic relies on.
So the business model relies on tricking the palate?
The business model relies on giving the customer what they physically crave. Sugar is energy. We are hardwired to seek it. Sting just delivers it more efficiently than an apple.
Efficiently, maybe, but sustainably, absolutely not. And this brings us to the next problem, the crash and the so-called nutritional value. The source material is very specific about this. It mentions the inevitable crash. What goes up must come down. When you spike your glucose that high, hitting the system with 49 grams of sugar in minutes, the body panics. The pancreas pumps out insulin to get that sugar out of the blood.
That is the biological mechanism, yes?
And the result is the insulin feedback loop. The insulin overcompensates, driving blood sugar down too low, leading to hypoglycemia. Once that sugar is metabolized, you crash. You're left more tired, more foggy, and often hungrier than before you drink it. It's a loan shark style of energy. You borrow energy now at a very high interest rate of fatigue later.
But is it really a nutritional void, though? You're ignoring the rest of the ingredients list.
Oh, I know what you're going to say. It has vitamins. Sting adds B vitamins B3, B6, B12. It has ginseng and taurine. But let's be honest, these are effectively supplements, just sprinkled on top of a sugar bomb. They do not offset the metabolic impact of the sugar load. You cannot vitamin load your way out of a 49-gram sugar spike. It's marketing, not nutrition.
I disagree. I think you're underestimating the safety valve aspect of the formulation. You're focusing on the sugar as the villain, but look at the stimulant profile. I would defend the formulation as a middle ground stimulant, which is a very smart business position.
Middle ground? It's an energy drink.
Look at the caffeine comparison. A 250 milliliter can of Sting has between 50 and 67 milligrams of caffeine. Now compare that to a standard cup of brewed coffee, which has about 95 milligrams, or a Starbucks venti, which can have 400. Sting actually has less caffeine than a cup of coffee.
That is a fair comparison regarding caffeine, but coffee doesn't inherently come with a side of 50 grams of sugar.
True, but from a safety margin perspective, this is a responsible level of stimulant. The FDA's daily safe limit is 400 milligrams. A can of Sting is only about 17% of that limit. This makes it a much safer option for afternoon consumption compared to some of the hardcore pre-workout drinks that cause heart palpitations and insomnia.
So your argument is at least it doesn't give you a heart attack?
My argument is that it drives volume sales. High caffeine limits consumption. If a drink is too strong, you drink one and you're done for the day. With Sting, the moderate caffeine but high sugar ratio positions it uniquely. It gives you the glucose for the muscles and a moderate caffeine bump for alertness, without the jitters. This means a consumer might drink 2 or 3 in a day, and that increases the burn rate of the inventory. It's good for the distributor.
That burn rate of inventory corresponds directly to the burnout of the consumer's pancreas. But since you brought up inventory, let's talk about the strategic gap here. Topic 3. The strategic implications for wholesalers.
What gap do you see?
Sting offers no sugar-free or diet versions. We are in a time where the world is facing a diabetes crisis. Health consciousness is exploding. Yet here's a major global brand with zero sugar options. They're alienating a massive and growing demographic of health-conscious consumers. If you're a wholesaler, aren't you worried about the lack of product diversity?
Actually, I would reframe this as a supply chain strength.
Explain that logic. How is missing a market segment a strength?
It's called SKU rationalization. By focusing strictly on the core high-energy variants, Gold Rush and Berry Blast, Sting simplifies inventory for distributors. You aren't managing 20 different SKUs with various sweeteners, different expiry dates, and different audience segments. You have a powerhouse product that turns over fast.
So simplicity over health?
Simplicity is speed in logistics. And let's talk about the import and export angle. For exporters, clear labeling of these high-sugar, high-calorie specs is critical for compliance. Different countries have different taxes on sugar. Some countries are now implementing sugar taxes, where anything over, say, 5 grams per 100 milliliters gets hit with a tariff.
That's true. Regulatory compliance is becoming a nightmare for sugary drinks.
Exactly. So if you're shipping a container of Sting to a country with a sugar tax, you need to know exactly what the liability is. 49 grams versus 46 grams matters on a ledger. This is where specialized distributors come in. You can't just blind ship this product. And for distributors looking to source Sting energy drink in bulk for retail or export markets, Asia Grocery Wholesale, or AGW, provides that specific knowledge. They ensure buyers get the correct regional formulation, whether that's the Gold Rush or the Berry Blast, and they understand the labeling implications for the destination market.
I appreciate the logistical simplicity, but we can't ignore the human cost of that simplicity. We have to talk about responsible consumption and labeling. We've been talking about the 250 milliliter can, but the source material notes there's a 330 milliliter bottle.
A very popular format, yeah.
That bottle jumps the calorie count to 248 calories and the sugar to nearly 58 grams. That is an enormous amount of energy for a beverage. The cumulative effect is dangerous. If a sedentary person, let's say an office worker, has a Sting with their lunch, they're consuming nearly 250 calories of liquid sugar. And liquid calories don't register satiety in the brain the same way solid food does. You don't feel full.
Which leads to weight gain.
It leads to rapid, unconscious waking. You're drinking a candy bar's worth of calories, but your body doesn't realize it. This is where sensory-specific satiety usually kicks in with food. You get tired of eating the same sweet taste, but because Sting is engineered with that acidity and carbonation you mentioned, it bypasses that mechanism. You can drink 58 grams of sugar and still want more.
I agree on the need for awareness, but I place the responsibility on the buyer. The information is on the can. The calories, the sugar content, it's all there. From a trade perspective, success comes from placing the product where instant energy is needed. You find Sting in convenience stores, gas stations, near construction sites. It isn't pretending to be a green juice.
But does the average consumer understand that instant energy essentially means sugar spike?
I think the consumer understands they are tired and they want to not be tired. And Sting solves that problem for about $2.
Let me wrap things up then. From my perspective, as the advocate for the consumer and nutrition, Sting delivers on its promise of energy, but the cost is a massive sugar debt. I view the 188 plus calories as empty because they displace nutrient-dense foods. The crash is real, and the metabolic impact of 11.5 teaspoons of sugar is not something to take lightly. For most people, especially those with sedentary jobs, water, tea, or even black coffee is the superior choice for sustained health.
And I come at it from the other side. Sting is a precisely engineered functional product. It's a dominant SKU in the FMCG market because it serves a specific need: rapid, accessible fuel for people who are burning energy. For wholesalers and retailers, the high turnover of these so-called sugary drinks proves their market value. They are reliable, they are shelf-stable, and they deliver the effect the customer pays for.
It seems we agree on the facts. The numbers don't lie, but we just disagree on the value of the trade-off.
I think that's fair, but we can both agree that transparency is vital. Knowing exactly what's in the can, whether it's the 11.5 teaspoons of sugar or the specific caffeine levels, is vital for both the consumer drinking it and the trader exporting it.
Absolutely. Informed choice is the goal here. Whether you're buying it to drink or buying it to sell, you need to know what you're holding.
Correct. And for those interested in the business side of these beverages, or for distributors looking to make bulk inquiries on Sting variants and navigate these complex specs, you should contact Asia Grocery Wholesale. You can find them at egrocery.asia. They have the expertise to guide those wholesale decisions.
A crucial resource for the industry. Thank you for a spirited discussion today.
Always a pleasure to dig into the details.
Thanks for joining the debate.